Hello everyone, my name is Ethan, and this is my presentation on the representation of schizoidal personality disorder in The Fall of the House of Usher. A crumbling house owned by a crumbling and diseased mind is sure to end in disaster. This is the story of the fall of the House of Usher. The story follows Roderick Usher, a self-isolating and mentally ill man who suffers a psychotic break after the death of his sister. I believe that schizoidal personality disorder is a mental illness that Roderick Usher suffers from, and he portrays many of the symptoms throughout the story. This is a list of symptoms of schizoidal personality disorder, and it was taken from the Mayo Clinic. However, I would like to only focus on 4 of these symptoms. The first being persistent and excessive social anxiety, peculiar, eccentric, or unusual thinking, beliefs, or mannerisms, unusual perceptions such as sensing an absent person's presence or having illusions, and lastly, peculiar style of speech such as vague or unusual patterns of speaking or rambling oddly during conversations. All 4 of these are symptoms that Roderick Usher portrays. The first sign of mental illness that Usher shows are his peculiar mannerisms. Poe writes, "He suffered much from a morbid acuteness of the senses. The most insipid food was alone endurable. He could wear only garments of certain texture. The odors of all flowers were oppressive." Usher has difficulty interacting with the world because of his mental illness, struggling with his senses because to them they are heightened. Usher's unusual mannerisms are a symptom of schizoidal personality disorder. The second symptom that Usher portrays is his strange speech patterns. He has an inconsistency when he speaks, his voice wavers, and he often rambles on in conversations. The narrator describes his condition as, "I saw that he spoke in a low, hurried, and gibbering murmur, as if unconscious of my presence." Usher does not acknowledge his friend, and is most likely talking to a hallucination of his sister. People with schizoidal personality disorder often ramble oddly during conversations and talk to themselves. The third symptom of Roderick Usher's mental illness is his anxiety, especially social anxiety. The narrator is the only friend Usher has. He explains, "I really knew little of my friend. His reserve had been always excessive and habitual." Roderick Usher is too afraid of people to make friends, and when he does, they know nothing about him. His extreme social anxiety prevents him from forming close relationships and from leaving the house. Usher's only companion for years was his sister, and when she dies, he snaps. All of his mental illnesses become worse, and he begins to spiral. Roderick Usher's symptoms reach a climax when he hallucinates an image of his deceased sister. Usher convinces himself that his sister is still alive. "I now tell you that I heard her first feeble movements in the hollow coffin. I heard them many, many days ago, yet I dared not speak." Usher's mental illness leads him to believe his sister is calling out to him from her sealed coffin in the basement. People with schizoidal personality disorder often have unusual perceptions of reality. Usher most likely perceived the creaking of his house with the wind as the sound of his sister moving in her grave. The mental illness Usher suffers from has convinced him that his sister is still alive. Later in the story, Roderick Usher hallucinates a image of his sister and passes away as a result. The image of his sister falls into him, and Usher falls to the ground as a corpse, most likely dying from a heart attack induced by the shock of the hallucination. Usher's unusual perception of reality and hallucinations are a direct result of his schizoidal personality disorder. My final diagnosis is that Roderick Usher from The Fall of the House of Usher suffers from schizoidal personality disorder. The story of Roderick Usher is a great representation of mental illness. and is even studied by nursing students for its depiction of psychotic behaviors. Society could learn a lot from analyzing this story. It could become more compassionate and understanding of those with mental illness, especially schizoidal personality disorder. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I encourage all of you to do more research into mental illnesses and mental health because we all need to keep our mental health in check. Again, thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.